What do we want to see in GTA 6? Now this video idea came from one of the people in my Discord. They're on the screen right now, so thank you for this idea. But I've taken some of their ideas and kind of adapted them to what I'd like to see. So if you want to have your ideas potentially featured in a video, make sure to go and check the Discord down below. But before we get into today's video, if you do enjoy any point in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to grow the channel, so any support you can give is massively appreciated. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So firstly, let's start off with vehicles. Firstly is a fuel requirement. Now I'm a bit on the edge about this, as you may have seen from one of my previous videos. I think it's a great idea in theory, but at the same time, I think it could get a bit tedious. I've explained it in my previous video, which is about getting on and off the horse and having to wait for animations to finish in Red Dead Redemption 2, and how that could overcomplicate the process in GTA 6. So I'm a bit on the fence about that, but I do think it would be cool to have it. It all depends how they implement it. Now, we know this is going to be in the game, unless the trailer was a complete lie. But in the trailer, you could see people refueling their car. There was actually quite a few shots of petrol stations within the trailer, or gas stations. The next thing is gear changing animation. I find it very weird how every car in GTA 5 is automatic and everyone driving just is really robotic in the way they drive. It's all a bit weird. So a gear changing animation would be awesome. Next is 900-degree steering rotation. Yes, I agree with this 100%. So in real life, you have to turn the steering wheel multiple times to get full lock on the steering wheel. Having the ability to turn full lock on the steering wheel, have the steering wheel kind of bounce back coming out of a skid, would be really cool. It's not something that will affect gameplay, but just from an aesthetics point of view, especially in first person mode, it would make a lot of difference to the realism. Next is car indicators. I think we'll probably get this on the PC version, with Rockstar buying CFX.RE, which is the role-playing side of Rockstar games. I think for the PC version we may get this. I think on a console, having a controller, it may get a bit complicated. It would be cool to see, especially if you start turning one direction and the indicators came on. It would make it a little bit more believable. Next is realistic suspension. So in GTA 4, we had a far too realistic in the sense that they took realistic gravity and made it really weird. So every single car kind of leaned and wallowed around too much. In GTA 5, it became far too arcade-like, yet the cars were easier to drive. We need something bang in the middle of GTA 4 and GTA 5. We can see from the trailer that the physics for the vehicles look a lot better than they do in GTA 5, so we're very interested to see how this plays out. Next is modern vehicles. Now this is something that I do think we will get. Obviously GTA 5 came out in 2013 and they were working on it for many years before that, so a lot of the vehicles we're seeing are very reminiscent of like 2008, 2009, 2010 era of cars. Now vehicles have like really long light bars at the front, LED lighting, all of that sort of stuff. So hopefully the vehicles are more modernized. What we've seen from the trailer doesn't really show us too much in the way of modern looking vehicles. They've tried to go for the more stereotypical Miami lifestyle type of approach, which is you've got your cool classics and your supercars. When it comes to general vehicles, it's really hard to tell what we're going to have, but I'm hoping that we do have more modern vehicles. Next is weapon storage and trunk. I think this is probably one of the most important things. We have big cars in the game, but we're not able to use any of the compartments within the vehicle to store things. In Red Dead Redemption 2, we were able to store things on our horse, and hopefully they'll take that same model of mechanic and put that into GTA 6, so we can actually utilize the trunk/boot of the vehicle for more useful things. How this will work between main vehicles and vehicles that you've just stolen, it'd be really interesting to see, but there's definitely a way to make it work. The next thing we're going to get onto is the world. So these are the things that have come up the most at the moment in my research of what people say they want, and these are the things that I align with the most. Firstly, tropical forests. I think being where it is on the east coast of the US, I think that's quite likely we will have something resembling the tropics. Mini islands, which I think we will have from what we've seen in the trailer. There's little islands dotted off the coast of the Keys. Food shops, I think this is an important one, and I'm very confident we will have this based on what we've seen from Red Dead Redemption 2. Next would be an amusement park. Now, of course, I've spoke about this in other videos with the GTA 6 mapping project, how there's some conversation how we might have a version of Disneyland called Fairyland in the game, but no one's really too sure if we will have that or whether it will be closed down or just non-existent. Next is gyms and restaurants. Now, I think that back in GTA San Andreas, the ability to work out and change the appearance of your character and make your character thinner, fatter, whatever it might be, that's something that we had in Red Dead Redemption 2 in terms of the customizable appearance of your character. I think having the ability to have like gyms and restaurants and stuff will allow you to fatten up or thinning up your character depending on what you're trying to get out of the game. Now, of course, as well, leading on to the gym and restaurant side of things, there's talk about having the mall as well, and I've done a full video deep dive of what the mall may look like. I think having a big mall where we have things like gyms, restaurants, and different things we can do within it would really help tailor the experience around your character. And this brings us on to the next point, which is functioning malls, hospitals, etc. Rather than just spawning outside of a hospital when you die in the game, it would be really cool if you could wake up in a ward in the hospital, or just make it a little bit more realistic. But at the same time, I can understand that might get a little bit annoying. Having to walk down a set of stairs or get in an elevator to leave a hospital every single time you die might be a bit of a pain. Next is a car showroom. I remember back in GTA Vice City, having that car showroom where you could break in and steal a car was such a gratifying thing. I think having car showrooms around the map would be an awesome way to introduce us to the ability to obtain high value cars without just dragging people out the cars onto the street. Also as well, one of the issues we had in GTA Vice City was that the cars that were in the showrooms were also the cars that were just driving around on the street. So to have specialist rare cars in dealerships where we have to actually maybe break into the dealership, turn off security cameras, whatever it might be, to steal these high-end cars would add a whole different element of a mini game feel to get that dream car you want within the game. Now, something that's come up quite a lot is alternate timelines, having modern day and past day timelines. For example, having some missions that are set in the 80s in the Vice City era. This is something that I really wanted, but I just don't see it being the case. Now, we have nothing to believe that will be the case, I just wish it was. Next, more enterable buildings. So we had some leaks just before the trailer dropped, I think it was 2 days before the trailer dropped, that about 70% of the buildings will be enterable, but since then a lot of people have cast doubt whether that would be possible due to the size and the density of the map. I've done a full video about this as well if you want to learn more. I think realistically we're probably talking about 50% of the buildings being enterable, but even then that's a staggering number considering in GTA 5 less than 3% of the buildings were actually quote unquote enterable. Next thing is pet shops. So obviously in the trailer we saw there was a dog, someone had an iguana. I think the ability to obtain pets and animals is something that we probably will see within the game. I'm not sure whether it's going to become a big part of the game or it's going to be a big mechanic that they build in, but it will still be pretty cool, especially online, to have your own personal pet and all of that stuff. I think it just adds a whole different element of personalization to the game. Next is haunted houses. Now this is one that I've seen a lot about, and I'm currently playing through Red Dead Redemption 2 and having abandoned buildings that have stuff in them. I think that's something we're going to expect to see in GTA 6. The fact is, not every single building out there is going to be fresh, modern, with a nice clean interior, so having abandoned buildings / weird creepy houses that are maybe linked to strangers and freaks missions and they're a bit more separate from the main storyline of the game, I think that's something that we are going to see, whether it's haunted or not, more abandoned, yes. Next is functioning airports. Now this is something that's been on everyone's wish list for a while. Having an actual terminal building that you can go into and maybe have identification checked to board a flight. Yes, it may be a bit more tedious, but I do think it will add more realism and more of a task-like feel to some of these things. I think the whole idea of jumping over a perimeter fence at an airport and stealing a plane is a bit too GTA 5. So to see that experience expanded on and enhanced a little bit would be a really good addition for GTA 6. Next is longer missions. Now this is a big one because I've expressed this in other videos. I don't like how, for example, we have very linear tasks. So for example, the first quarter of the game is usually like a tutorial on how to do certain things within the game. And it's very similar to what we've seen in Red Dead Redemption 2, where you'll have a task which is to go and steal something, and then there's people shooting against you, you shoot them, you get the money, you move on. A large part of the missions were pretty much that retextured for GTA 5. So in GTA 5, especially online, every mission is pretty much the same, just with a different texture on top. Being able to see longer and more complex missions will really add value to the game. The next thing is part of the map being inspired by Cuba. Now, we know from the original title of GTA 6, which internally it was called Project Americas, that Rockstar were exploring different areas of South America and places off the coast of Florida. I think it's very likely we'll see some reference to Cuba, whether it be a part of the map, whether it be an island, we don't know, but there will definitely be a Cuban-inspired part of the map, due to that being so closely linked to Florida's heritage. Next is activities. So, with Red Dead Redemption 2, they put a lot of effort on the hunting mechanics within the game. And I think it's quite obvious now to a lot of people that we will probably see a hunting mechanic built into GTA 6. How complex that would be in comparison to Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm not too sure. But I think there might be the option to do something like hunting or something similar, or fishing or something very similar to that, because Rockstar clearly put a lot of work into getting that right for Red Dead Redemption 2. It can't be too hard for them to introduce that into the game engine for GTA 6. Next is more strangers missions. So in Red Dead Redemption 2, this is something that Rockstar did very well. The amount of strangers and freaks missions was awesome. Like, the ability to completely go off on a side mission and get lost in the map doing something else was really cool. With Vice City being more densely populated, it'd be really cool if we could see this return. Next is improved NPC AI. This is something that we know is going to be improved upon for GTA 6 because we've seen a lot of proof of that. In the leaks that came out in 2022, some of the interactions NPCs were having with other people were way more complex than anything we've seen before from Rockstar Games. Next is better police chases and more non-linear police chases. So in GTA 5, police chases were a bit boring. People would get out of the car, try and shoot at you, chase you, try and crash into you, push you on the road. Every single police chase was the same. So to have a more diverse interaction with the police when you are getting chased would be really interesting. And looking at some of the stuff that we saw in the leaks in 2022, I believe that we will get way more interesting police dynamics within the game. Next is police investigations. So in Red Dead Redemption 2, we had a timeline of you commit a crime, there was a witness, the crime's been investigated, and then you're wanted. Based on the leaks we saw back in 2022, there is going to be a similar sort of timeline for GTA 6, where there's a response time from the police. This being carried over to GTA 6 is definitely a really welcome addition because it means there's more strategy involved in everything you do. Like, for example, when you rob someone, having the ability to either take more money or get away quickly, and adding a different challenge to that whole process will make the game far more interesting. Next would be more free roam activities, things we can do around the map that aren't so linear. Now what that might be, we don't know, but we've seen some hints from the leaks we had back in 2022 that we might be able to do more activities within the game, whether it be even crime related things like money laundering, for example, more activities we can do that give us things to do between missions or after we've completed the game. Next is headphones while walking. So the ability to still listen to radio stations and music within the game, or a streaming service, which I did a whole video about that as well, but the ability to listen to music in the game whilst walking around will just make the game a little bit more fun. It means you can listen to your favourite music whilst doing a shootout, which sounds pretty cool. Next is better parkour and ways to traverse the map. So in Red Dead Redemption 2, we saw a complete overhaul of Rockstar's game engine. Activities like jumping over walls or fences were far more realistic, and I think having the ability to maybe like run up to a wall and jump higher, or like take a couple of steps up the wall to get over it, just makes it a lot more realistic. And based on what we've seen in Red Dead Redemption 2, if they just carry that over to GTA 6, that's what we could expect. Next is newspaper ads and TV news regarding what we're doing when we're wanted. Having the world respond to activities you do is something that Rockstar introduced in Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was really cool to see how people responded to you based on the activities that you were doing in the missions. So having social media portray that within the game would be really interesting. Next, we're going to get onto properties. So the ability to have your own garages and businesses where you can store vehicles in story mode, and have the ability to have like maybe 10 cars within the game would be really cool. And that kind of brings us onto housing as well, being able to have a customizable house or different sorts of properties other than apartments scattered around the city. Being able to choose your home based on where you want to be within the map and based on the storyline that you're trying to build for your character, I think will add a lot of value to the game. The next thing we'd want is the ability to sell that property, and maybe for that property to appreciate in value. It's very rare that you buy a house and it immediately be worth less than you paid for it. Houses usually aren't depreciating assets, so to be able to buy a home for $1 million in the game and then be able to sell that property for like 1.1 million and then use that money to buy another property would be really cool. The next thing I want to talk about is the story of GTA 6. Rockstar managed to tell a really compelling story of Red Dead Redemption 2. GTA 5 had a great story, and of course we all know it and we all love it, but the ability to make it a bit more personal, for example the way that we built a relationship with Arthur in the game, being able to connect with our characters, is something that GTA 5 kind of missed a little bit. In Red Dead Redemption 2, like, we felt like we were part of the game, and to be able to do that with GTA 6 will pretty much determine whether story mode is worth playing at all. Next is weather systems. Weather systems should affect the gameplay. So for example, certain things should be harder to do in certain conditions. If there's thunderstorms outside, maybe a house break-in should be easier because you can use the cover of the thunder, for example, to break into the house. That was a really poor example, I know. Having weather affect gameplay, especially where Miami's based, you know, quite adverse weather, that would be really cool. So that pretty much wraps up the wish list for GTA 6. Of course, if you have any more ideas, please go to the comments down below and let me know what they are. And of course, you can drop a message in the Discord, which is also linked down below, and join the conversation about what we all want to see in GTA 6. And thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one.